Hi, I'm your host Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to the Lifestyle Finance Australia show, which is dedicated to creating greater awareness about the power of leveraging finance when it comes to accelerating your growth and personal development. And we celebrate the hundreds of coaches, thought leaders, and game changers we support. This is a platform where you can meet some of the world's best experts in online business, trauma healing, digital marketing, relationship coaching, abundance and wealth creation, spiritual ascension, body healing, and wellness. So if you're looking for your next coach, healer, or mentor to take you on the next step in your journey, this is the show for you. Let's play. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of the Lifestyle Finance Show. Today, I have another incredibly awesome special guest. He is a life and business strategist. He's spoken in over 5 countries and crowds of anywhere up to 6,000 plus at a time. He was financially free by the time he was 23, and he made his first mil by the age of 28. When it comes to business, money, and mindset, this person is definitely someone you want to be listening to and following. Morgan Nelson, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to get on here and talk all things business, entrepreneurship, mindset, money. So yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, you once told me that you see yourself where you're headed is sort of like the new young Tony Robbins, and I really love that. And there's a question that I always like to get our guests to answer, because I can do it, but yet when I hear it from my guests, there's just a certain magic about it. So let's pretend I don't know what you do and the awesome things that you serve the world with. If you were to give it to me in, say, a sentence, what is it that you do? What's your magic, and who do you most serve?
What I would say would be, I help people realize their true potential. I help people realize the thing that they're actually here to do on this planet, on this, their mission, their purpose in life, and then help them really unpack and destroy all the things that they've actually created throughout their life that stopped them or held them back or limited them in some way from actually executing on that. Because I really believe that every single one of us were born with something incredible to bring to the earth, do on the earth, or whatever it's going to be. And then what happens is we're these little making machines, these mini making machines, and we create all these things that stop us or limit us or block us from actually really living into an incredible life. So if I'll say what I really help people do is help them learn the skill set and the mindset to create their dream life.
I love that. So succinctly said, and way better than I would have done it. And there's something in there that I want to go back on, because one of the things that I love about sharing on this show is people's personal journey to this level of self-realization and this level of self-discovery. Because I think sometimes when we're on the journey, we're looking at people that we consider at the top of the mountain we want to get to, we forget what they've been through to get there. And hearing your passion behind how you shared about what it is that you do and how you help people realize their potential. Can you talk us through a little bit about what your journey's been like and realizing your own potential and then being able to share this gift with others?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you the short story.
Great. I love a good story.
Yeah, but pretty much, longer story cut short, when the only reason I went to grade 12 was for the parties and the girls. It was the only thing that interested me. It was a fun time, and everyone around me was telling me that, hey, you're not really doing very well at school. Why don't you just leave, go get a job? And I was like, this is ridiculous. Why would I do that? I'm having so much fun. I'm really enjoying my life. And from the beginning of time, I really think it's like why I'm here is to just create an incredible experience every single day. I just want to have so much fun and live life. And that's what I did. But when I finished school, I had quickly realized that I had to get a job. I had to do something. And I landed myself into an apprenticeship as a carpenter. I was working away 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day. And it didn't take too long before that entire environment just sucked me into exactly how that world is. And here I graduated from 9 hours a day to 14, 15 hours a day. We're working away 40 to 45 degree heat every single day, 15-hour days, 7 days a week. And then we'll do that for 3 weeks and I'll take 2 days off. And what I did every single day to cope with all that, I did what everyone else around me was doing. And what everyone else around me was doing they were drinking every single day. They were using drugs every single day. They were toxic. They were violent. They were depressed. They were anxious. And that's what I become. You hang around with 5 rotten apples, you're gonna become one as well.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. And here I was at 19 years old, a year prior, having an incredible life. What I thought, I had a good job. I was having fun, I was hanging with my friends, going party on the weekends, doing all the things that 18-year-olds should do. Then 19, completely doped up, trying to take my own life, thinking that it was the only way actually out of it all. The pain of it all got so much that I legitimately thought it'd be more painful to stay here than it would be to leave. And through that whole realization, it really actually made me realize that we are here for, like, we're here for one time. And if we're going to spend a life not actually pursuing the things that light our souls on fire, then we're just going to become a number in the system, like a little cog. And I see this, we see this all the time. You walk around, you see people that are just so checked out of life and they got no idea what's happening. And they're just this mundane day to day. People don't usually have goals. Number one reason people don't achieve their goals in life is because they don't actually know what they want in life. And and it really kind of made me realize that you are who you hang around. And I left that environment. I came back down to the Gold Coast, and I started to surround myself with people that actually had the life I wanted. They were happy, they were successful. And I just started to get really curious on asking questions on how people get wealthy. Funny story, actually, I only just remembered this story the other week, and I told my friend, I was like, dude, I gotta share this story more often. But
Yeah.
this is, I think, where business really excited me. I was sitting in the pub one day after work. I think I was 18, 19. I can't remember if it was before or after I went away for that whole story. And I see this old guy, not old, I thought he was old, right? He's like in his 50s, coming in. He's older than me, but too young to be retired yet. Wednesday, playing golf with these buddies. And I was just like, this is fucked. How is this even possible? Like, I've been working all day. And I asked the guy, he comes up to the bar, and I asked the guy, I said, hey, if I buy you a drink, can you tell me how you can play golf on a Wednesday with your friends? And he's like, you don't have to buy me the drink, but I can tell you. I said, amazing. What do you do? And he's like, well, I operate a business and it pays me enough money every single week. We have this really good cash flow. And pretty much it runs by itself and I don't have to work in it. I'm like, how do you do that? Like, what's like, because I didn't understand. I legitimately thought the only way to become a millionaire in life was to inherit it or win the lottery. I didn't know that average people could just do stuff like this. So I was starting to get fascinated. And you know what he said to me?
What
He
did he
goes,
say?
he goes, do you know Silk down in Bundle? And I'm like, no. He goes, the brothel. I'm like,
He owns the brothel. Please tell me he owns the brothel.
he owned a brothel.
Yes.
And he said to me, and he's like, I said, you own a brothel? I'm like, tell me about that. And he's like, well, he goes, cost you about $250,000 to buy. He goes, we've got our licensing. He goes, the only expenses we really have is our licensing per year, electricity, and a shitload of condoms and lube. And I'm like, that's it. He goes, yeah, people come in and we take 50-50 split. And then whatever the girl makes behind the door, she keeps, but we just take the half off every single thing. And he goes, we've got, 15 and 20 girls that work all day long. And he goes, there's a lot of horny people in the Gold Coast. And I'm like, and I'm doing the maths in my head. And he goes, yeah, on a bad week, we'll do about 20 grand. I'm like, this is fucking wild. So from that moment, I set out with the goal to go, I've got to save $250,000 to buy a brothel.
To get a brothel.
That was the goal for so long. And then so throughout that mission, then I'm like, I want to make money, I want to save money. I got curious on how to make more. How do I upskill? How to become better? How can I do jobs on the side? And then I started my first business at 21. A friend introduced me to a network marketing company. And I just saw that as a way that I'm like, yo, I can make money here. I sucked at it so bad for my first 2 years. And then finally, got better at it. When I was 23, I was making enough money that to be financially free, quit my job and moved to Mexico. And all the goals then changed. It wasn't to get a brothel anymore. It was to actually just get my business to about 100 grand a year and a residual income and have complete time freedom. And we did that within about 6 months.
Wow.
And then that sort of just sent us on a wild goose chase around the world, living in Bali, Mexico, the US, and traveled 50 plus countries while just working from our laptop before it was cool. I like to say we invented the digital nomad era. And that really just blew up everything, and then I think I got obsessed with teaching people how they can also do it. Because when I was sitting on the beach at 23 in Mexico, essentially retired. I called it retired. I was like, I'm retired. Not fucking really, but whatever you want to.
It feels like that at that age.
that whole hype. I was like, man, I never have to work a day in my life. And it's true. I only worked full time 5 years of my life. I'm 30 now. And, but I was sitting there, I was like, how did somebody like me go from a complete fuck up at 21 to now sitting on the beach, job dependent, location dependent, independent, completely financially free at 23. I got obsessed on breaking that down and dissecting the brain, human psychology, neuroscience, all of this on how we can actually do it. And I think it just begged the question, why weren't we taught this in school? And then I've really spent the last, I guess, 6 years of my life really studying and investigating this stuff. And that's everything we do now. We run big seminars, and that's how I transfer the education now, through seminars, coaching, programs, masterminds, and all this stuff, just teaching people the no bullshit approach to actually how do you create your dream life. Because if someone like me can do it by 23, then I have a formula, I have a program. It will just work. I've broken down to an actual science, and that's everything about my life pretty much today.
I love it. That is the best story. And I love that it started off with somebody who'd made themselves time and financial freedom with a brothel. And young Morgan wanted a brothel. I think that's so great.
But it got me really thinking about business, because he started teaching me about, he's like, just, like Alex Hormozi talks about now, have a starving crowd, and sometimes so much money is made in businesses that people won't want to even look into. Yeah. And people, like, I was having a conversation with Adam Hudson a few weeks ago. He was one of the first people in Australia to blow up, teaching people Amazon FBA and all this sort of stuff. And one of his first things he used to sell was these I can't even say the word, like what do you do when you have a colonoscopy?
A colonoscopy.
Yeah, and you have to have a bag or something like this.
Oh, a colostomy bag? A colostomy bag?
He used to sell those bags on Amazon, and that was when he first.
Oh, you mean colonics, where they have like the colonic bag and it drips
No, I don't think it's that. Maybe, like, I'm not too fucking in it, but the moral is, it was the most weirdest fucking product that people probably won't even look at. But the fact is, it's a need. It's a need. And business, if you can get unemotional about it and actually look at what's the problem I'm going to solve here. If you can solve big problems for rich people, they pay big checks. And so I started to just learn all these things at a young age. And I haven't written off the brothel idea. It's probably morally kind of not sure if it would totally align. Not sure if it would totally align with everything we do now. However, if a dealer came across the table, I wouldn't say no to it. Yeah, I'd investigate it all, because it seemed like a fucking insane business model.
I really, that whole story, it reminds me of, have you ever seen the lighter experiment, where you put like one lighter in a glass of water, and you have a second lighter, you light the first light, you try and light the wet lighter, and you just can't light the spark in it. There's nothing wrong with the lighter, it's fully gassed, but the spark in it's gone out. And I feel sometimes a little bit like in life, it's a little bit like this. Here we are, our spark's gone out. There's so much light and life and passion and gifts within inside us, but our light's gone out. And what we need is someone to come along and spark it. When you light the dry lighter and you touch the wet lighter and you've got the gas on, the lighter lights. And that story that you shared with me about the guy who's coming, who's playing golf on Wednesday, and you're like, how the fuck are you doing this? And when he shares that story about what he's done, I kind of feel like that's the thing that turned the spark on for you. And since that moment, your whole life mission and purpose has been helping other people turn that spark on.
That makes a lot of sense. Like I would say, because no one was there for, doing that in the beginning. And that was the first guy to probably sat and actually go, no, I can tell you exactly. And he didn't have to do that and take the time to actually explain it. And that probably does play a part as to why I'm kind of passionate about it now. Because I just have a philosophy, like, if I can help somebody, I should do it for the sole purpose because I can.
Yeah.
Like, and I think if we all lived a life like that, it's like, I was even thinking about this yesterday driving to my home, because I used to throw on Christmas Day, like, parties on Christmas Day all the time for like all the orphans. I'd be like, anyone who's a Christmas orphan, come and have fun. And one of my friends asked me one time, they're like, because I had to leave our kind of party we were having with my friends to go host this party, and they're like, why are you doing it? I'm like, because I can.
Yeah. And
I think if you can do something to make an impact in someone's life, I think you have an obligation to do it.
Yeah. I feel similarly. I like within like all reasonable grounds that I'm the same. If there's an opportunity for me to do something and it doesn't take anything from me to just give that little bit of kindness, you just don't know where it's going to end up. Like
Mm.
him sharing that story with you and helping turn your light on, the ripple effect of the thousands, probably millions of people that you've impacted and helped do the same thing is profound. And there was something that you shared. I was doing a little bit of a stalk on your Facebook before I jumped on. I always like to have a little bit of a look and just kind of like see if I can find some like extra interesting things to sort of like ask our guests or that they've shared or to share with our listeners. And I found this little video where you were talking about the importance of environment creating identity and how people just want to fit in. And you were talking about a Harvard psych test. Do you remember this?
With the lines?
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
share that with us? Because I thought this was so powerful, and what you did, like you said, you finished school and you were this happy guy who just wanted to make the most out of life, and it wasn't before long where you ended up in this environment and you became the environment, but then broke out of it. And I just, when I was listening to you talk about this, I was like, oh, we talk about environment creates identity all the time. You hear it a lot in the coaching space, and I just found this example of this study that you're about to share so powerful, and I'd love for our listeners to hear it if you're willing to share it, please.
Yes, of course. So I break this down. The reason I share this is because it's the first pillar of what you need to actually create your dream life. So there's 4 pillars we need. Like I said, I've broken this down into like an actual law now, and I'm going to write a book about it.
Morgan's Law.
Yeah, no, it's called the Dream Out Loud method.
Crazy.
Because it's literally just like cooking a chocolate cake. If you don't cook a chocolate cake, doesn't matter if you're a good baker or not. If you follow the steps, you follow the process, you follow the method, it's going to work for you. It's going to come out at least a 9 out of 10. It's pretty damn accurate. Follow the course. And the first law is that you need to have the right environment. And there's 2 types of environments, the internal and the external. And where this study came from, so I'm pretty sure it was Harvard. I'm not sure on which university, but it was the first ever psychological test that was ever done on humans when they wanted to start testing how do we behave in group environments and all these sorts of things. And what they realized is they said they got 4 people in a room, 3 of them were paid actors, and one of them was a real person. And they put 4 lines on the board. One of the lines was double the size of the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they said to everybody, go in there and choose which line stands out from the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And they told all the actors, go in there and choose A. And so the real guy comes in, the answer is D, right? It's the double length.
Yeah.
The real guy comes in and he's like, what the fuck? He looks at these guys and he's laughing. He's like, guys, the psychedelic testing is next door. Like, what are you doing, right? And he goes, it's D. He says, of course it's D. The fuck?
Yeah.
Then they reset, they do it again. They come back in, they tell the actors, choose B this time. The guy comes back in, he looks at them a little less humorous this time. Like, what the? No, it's D. A little with more doubt. There's a little bit more doubt. By the time they get to the 4th, 5th, or 6th time, every single time they've done it, 4, 5, or 6, they do the test. You know what happens? The actors come in, they choose whatever, they choose A. And the real guy will come in without even thinking and just copy the rest and also choose A. And what this shows us is that it's more important for us as human beings to actually fit in with the clan, to fit in with the tribe, to fit in with those around us than it is for us to stand out and be right. And if we think about what is the right answer stand for? What does that mean in our life? Well, let's say, for example, if you've got an incredible idea, you got a dream, you got something you want to bring to life, you're an entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur can relate to this. They at some point in their life thought that they were weird. They're like, why can no one else get me? Am I the weirdo? Why do I think like this? Why can't I concentrate? Why am I not inspired by this? Why do I just want to do it differently? Why do I always have to be the person who does it differently than everyone else? And what starts to happen is if they don't harness that power, eventually they give up on all their entrepreneurial spirits. They give up on their dream because it's more important for them to fit in with those around them than it is for them to actually pursue what they know is inside of them and execute on it. And this would go back to tribal days because we are biologically, we feel more safe. The number one prime directive of the unconscious mind is to keep you alive.
Yeah.
It wants us to survive. Everything our brain will do is to avoid pain or threat or deep fears. So if it thinks that, hey, if I choose this and I'm on my own, then I'm going to be separated from the clan, that goes against what the most important thing is for me, which is survival. So I need to survive before I actually actualize on my desires. I have to survive first. And we've seen this over and over and over. Even if you think back through all the COVID times, and I've tested this in rooms, and I would say, put up your hand if you got the vaccination. Some people's hands go up, I said, why did you get it? Right? Some people are there, well, because I had to keep my job. And I kind of get it. It's like, you were put in a situation, you had to get a job. Sure.
Yeah.
Then there's some people who are like, well, I don't know, our family were getting it, everyone's around us, they're just getting it. I just got it. Perfect example. But then I'm not on either side, right? I don't think I've publicly really said which side I was ever on for this whole thing. But I could also, on the other side, why did you not get it? Oh, because everyone around me. Like if we were to look at per capita in Australia, I would bet my bank that per capita on the Gold Coast is probably the least amount of people who actually got vaccinated. Because everybody here were just like, nah, it just wasn't. But in Melbourne, probably a lot bigger.
Huge.
They had a lot more things. They were being pulled with, hey, if you get it, you get a reward, and if you don't get it, you get punished more. So that's how you brainwash somebody. It's one of the pills on how you actually effectively brainwash somebody. Not saying that was what happened. Never say that, but that's effectively how that would happen to somebody. And
very political,
but we
very
see
smooth, Nelson.
but we see it unfold like that, and people will choose things. People will fucking be in relationships because I don't know, because it's just they were my classmate or whatever, without actually going, that's not what I want. And they silence that voice inside them because of the environment. But here's where it's super powerful. This is why the right environment is super powerful, because let's say, for example, when I leave school and I know all my friends around me, they're going to university, they're doing all the things, and they're like, Morgan, you have to get a job. And I'm like, you don't though. Like, you should be able to just travel the world and have fun every day. Can't you do that? And everyone's like, no, you can't do that. So for many years, I'm like, well, fuck, maybe the answer is A. And then what happened was I was just so down. I was like, this sucks. Like, if this is life, like, that's not what I signed up to. But then I find a new environment where their A is completely different perception of what the other person's A was. So what they think is normal was so different from what I thought was normal. So now when I'm choosing D, I'm like, guys, but you can't become a millionaire in your 20s. They're like, well, why not? I said, well, I don't know, because that's just how it's done, isn't it? Then they start to break my paradigm. They start to actually be like, no, it's actually not D anymore, Morgan, it's A. Then what happened is I've still been pushed to a different answer from what I thought was right, but my environment pulled me into what they believe is right. This is why it's so crucial to choose the right environment, because if you hang around with 10 billionaires, they're probably going to crush every single limiting belief you have around finances, money, self-worth, everything. And they're going to challenge you so hard to be like, wow, this happens every single time. I feel extremely like, it feels like my brain's just doing this like a magnet, is when I'm in massive environment shifting places. It happened when I was back in the UK a few months ago when I spoke at the IFS event with Stephen Bartlett and Chris Williamson, James Smith, three like biggest entrepreneurs in Europe, and the guy who owns Grenade Fitness. It's worth £500 million, which is a billion Aussie, right?
That's huge. Yep.
Then there's little old me on stage, and I'm walking up to get on stage, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? And it was a whole new paradigm, because the conversations I had with people backstage about business, about social media, they were just shattered any of the limiting beliefs I had. Because I was saying, guys, the answer's D, the answer's D. They're like, no, it's not, it's A. And I'm like, fuck, maybe it is A. This is why you're never going to be able to just go on your own unless you're extremely stubborn and like maybe superpathic narcissist. I'm not sure. But if you can choose the right environment, you're naturally, because your primary need is to survive, you're going to want to copy and fit into whatever the people are doing around you. This is why I say to people all the time, like, if all your network are just broke and unhappy, you gotta get a new network. You gotta at least get one who can drown out the noise of the other one. Like, I'm not saying like go tell all your friends, hey, you guys aren't growing and you guys are losers, so I don't want to be a friend anymore.
Yeah, don't do that.
But it's about being like, hey, I'm valuing my growth. I'm gonna invest in mentorship, masterminds. I want to get around people that are playing big. I flew to Sydney last week, right? For one day. Like, I flew down in the morning and flew out in the night to Melbourne, to get in a room with people like Richard Branson, Ty Lopez. Then I got a big business opportunity meeting there. I got an invite to Richard Branson's island.
Congratulations.
But it wouldn't have happened if I didn't get off my ass and invest to be there.
Yeah.
So many other people didn't, but I was like, fuck, I'm just gonna get in the room of people like this and opportunities come.
Yeah. Such a powerful belief. And such a powerful story. Like it really is, like when you look at it like that through the study and then also through like your own shaping and journey through it, it rings true time and time again. I know for myself I'm the same. Like there's also they've done some other studies. There was one where they were looking at where two when two energetic fields come together, and this is where they have like who you are with one person will never be who you are with the next person. And
Mm.
each person knows you so differently because when these two energetic fields combine, when your field combines with their field from a quantum field perspective, the parts of you that get amplified or suppressed are very much dependent upon what's happening between the dance of those two energetic fields. And like you said, if you're in an environment where it's bringing out those depressive, repressive, you've got to do the 9 to 5 job, you're never going to get anywhere, that kind of stuff, the parts of you that are like, hold on a minute, like, I'm sure the answer was D, even though you guys are saying A, sort of like silence. And then, but like you said, when you get in a room with those powerful people, all of a sudden, those other parts of you, even though it might shatter so many different belief systems inside of you, it's activating these other parts of you that may be dormant or just needed to be in the presence of somebody else to light up.
Mm.
And like there's more than just the people part, but also from the quantum field perspective, like how we're relating and doing that. And they've also done other studies that I found really interesting. This is looking at high performance. My figures on this are going to be off by probably like 10-ish%, give or take, just because it's been a while since I actually watched the thing and read the study. But essentially, the way it goes is that if you've got a high performer and you have other people within 20 meters of this high performer, it will have, or like seated close to this high performer, it will boost the other people's productivity by at least 20% just for being in the presence of the high performer.
Wow. Where did you see this stuff?
I will find both of these. So I
This is
love my,
fascinating
yeah.
because I'm this comes down to the perception of projection. So this is also why being in the room of people is super important, because they did a study with a teacher, okay, and they got this teacher and a group of school kids, and pretty unethical test, but they did it anyway.
Don't
And
you love the 60s and the
yeah,
70s and even the
yeah,
80s?
before people got really offended by everything,
Right.
like, but what they did, they said to the teacher, they said, hey, this is the special group. A lot of them are mentally retarded, and so still follow what you need to teach, but just don't expect much from them.
Mm.
They did a semester, and all the kids got C's and D's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they switched the teacher next semester. They said to the teacher, hey, this class is the special class. These guys are so intelligent. These guys, we can't keep up with them. We've had to put them in a group so they can expand faster than everybody else. So do your best to keep up with them, but still teach the proper curriculum. And then they all got A's and B's. Exact same kids, completely different. And what they've brought this down to is the things that we can actually internalize, and what we perceive about you, which is also what we perceive about us, will project that onto you. So this is what you're talking about with energetically and crossing paths. And this is not even so much of this is psychology as well. So it's not so like woo-woo, really. It is quite scientific that we can be in rooms of people that literally just have the belief of themselves that they are capable of this much more. And by being in that environment, it can project the similar beliefs actually into you. Same as which, if we surround ourselves with people that have really low self-belief, really self-worth, eventually they'll project that also into you.
And it does affect the high performer. If you put a
Yeah.
high performer and a bunch of low performers, it will affect them. And this is even too, like when it comes to choosing masterminds that you're looking at investing in for your growth and personal development, this is something that I'm really particular about, is like looking at who's in that. Because if the people in that, if I'm not the dumbest person in that room, then I don't want to be there. Because if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm going to be held back by where the person is at the lower end of that. I'm only going to grow as much as that person is capable of growing because of this law that we're talking about. And when you're looking at jumping into masterminds and working with people, you want to be okay to leave the ego at the door and be the dumbest person in the room to be pulled along by the collective field.
Yeah, that's one thing that's literally helped me. Obviously the more you grow, it becomes harder to get into these rooms.
Mm.
But I remember I propelled my growth because I had a statement. I'm like, I want to be, if I'm the dumbest and the poorest in that room, I want to be in it. And I would make it my mission to be like, I want to make sure that I'm the dumbest and the poorest. If I'm in rooms where I'm the richest and the smartest for too long, I'm fucking things up. And then obviously when you're around rooms like that, you start making a lot more money, you start becoming a lot more
Mm-hmm.
smart. Then it becomes hard, and eventually it flips, and people are trying to get into your room. It's like, shit, but whose room am I trying to get into? And
Yeah.
but now, as Ty Lopez said to us the other day, he's like, is the same conversation he's talking about. And he's like, I've paid $250,000 to have a dinner with somebody. He's
Yeah.
like, with a billionaire. He's like, I had to donate to his charity, but he's like, but that's what it gets to. He's like, to get into rooms like that, you got to start paying big money. But by
Yeah.
doing that continually, he's got $250,000 to spend on that meeting. And he said, he goes, hands down, that's bringing me at least a 5x ROI. That one conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets really fun. You mentioned before when you were in that room with those guys that are like masters in the social media marketing and all that kind of stuff, and it just totally shattered some of your beliefs and paradigms around what you had.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember what some of those were? And do you feel comfortable sharing like some of the things of like what you thought and now what you've like based from being with them, what that shifted to?
Yeah. Well, what it was, and I'm still trying to really articulate how to explain to somebody. But it felt like there was a massive lag. So here I am, Morgs doing his thing, always trying to do his thing, get into rooms, yada yada yada. And then I got invited to speak at this event, right? So I got, hey, come over, you want to speak at this event. And it was a bit vague. Okay. So
Mm.
I thought I was going over to maybe I'll talk on a panel or something like that. And I'm like, look, any opportunity there is to speak at this event and just to rub shoulders with these guys, I'm there. I'm just so grateful for it. That's amazing. I mean, anywhere I can support your event, I'm in.
Hmm.
And then it was the day before I get a phone call from the manager of the entire thing. He's like, hey, so I'm going to put you on main stage tomorrow, right after Stephen Bartlett and James Smith and the Grenade owner, and before Chris Williamson. So the four biggest headline speakers of the entire event, and then me, squished in the middle. And I'm like, of course. I was like, yeah, sure, done. And he's like, are you good for that? He's like, you got about a 40-minute piece. I'm like, yeah, done, easy. And I get off the phone. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Goosebumps.
So it started to really, I guess, highlight where I didn't believe yet that I should be on that stage.
Mm.
Because I came over thinking, yeah, give me your shittiest speaking position, and I'm happy with that. And he gave me probably the best. It
Cried.
literally was the
Between
best,
them. Yeah.
like insane, like without being a headline speaker. So I guess it really sort of started to show for me like that other people, and this is why the environment is so good, right? Because here's these people that are so killing it so much more than me. They obviously see so much more in me than what I currently saw in myself.
Mhm.
And it felt like I was stepping through the uncomfortable feeling of that, being like, yes, I'm going to accept this position. Yes, I'm going to accept this role, yada, yada, yada. And at the same time, I was battling with what the fuck, Morgan, but this doesn't feel right. I'm like, I know it doesn't feel right, but we're doing it anyway. And
Mm.
so it was sort of that. And that's how I feel like the paradigm shift, the quantum growth of it is to continually be in rooms like that where they make you question your own self-worth and being like, shit, am I even deserving to be here? Am I good enough to be here? In my opinion, that's when you know you're in a good environment, when you're like, fuck, I'm too dumb to be here. Good. Stay there.
Mhm.
Because they obviously see more in you than what you currently see in yourself. Stay there until you start to recognize it in yourself. And I started to, yeah, just listen to these things and see these guys, and like some of these, the pretty big freaking celebrities, like Steven the day before he was hanging out with Prince William. Like
Yeah, wow.
it's just wild, that this guy from Australia that was fucking addicted to drugs, alcohol, tried to kill himself at 19 was doing that, less than a decade later. Um, so
I think
yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah, like
So cool.
it's super cool, and but it's come from a continual. And I said to this someone the other day, I said, if you're not continually, like if at least 10 times a year, you're not actually saying to yourself, I feel like I'm in the wrong room, or I don't think I'm good enough to be here, or if you're feeling uncomfortable of the situation that you're in, if you're not there at least multiple times a year, then you're not growing fast enough. Because I hate it. I only feel stagnant. I don't know about you, but I feel stagnant when I haven't had that fear of like, shit, this is expansive. And I'm just like, I've another example. I just had a phone call from a couple of days ago from, I don't know if you know, a guy called Daniel G. He's big sales trainer in Australia. And he's a friend of mine. He calls me. He's like, dude, I'm gonna be in Sydney in fucking 2 weeks, 29th of December. All right. Let's do an event together. I said, you want to do an event 2 days before New Year's Eve? He said, yeah. I said,
Yeah.
let's go then. I thought I was about to wrap up for the year. And I'm like, all right. Now we're looking at literally getting a venue and putting 300 to 400 people in a room 2 days before New Year's Eve in Sydney. And because I took the invite, he's like, let's do this. I'm going to do it anyway. Do you want to do it with me? I said, yes. I did it. And he's like, come speak at my mastermind next year in Miami, and just opening these doors, right? So every single time by networking and getting into these rooms, I'm having people literally project what they believe to be true about me into me. And it's making me question, go, shit, like I still need to grow up. I still need to level up to that level of actually having that self-belief within myself. Because this person obviously sees it, and that's just more growth for me. Because I think it is a continual, like our self-worth is I think the ultimate thing we have to continually keep working on, because whatever we believe we're worth fundamentally will attract to us wealth, relationships, health, everything. And every result we have in our life, I truly believe, is that comes down to what we believe we are actually worthy of receiving.
100%. All right, question for you. So I love all of that, and I'm really there's something about you that's quite unique compared to other people, and I want to see if we can uncover it a little bit, because I think if we can awaken this, if we can pack this spark onto our listeners, then like we've done our job today. Now, when it comes to receiving, and when like listening to what you're sharing here about being in these different rooms and allowing yourself to receive how other people see you well beyond where you see yourself, is not something everybody has the capacity to do. And here, how I usually see this showing up is that if we were to look at like simple metaphor, let's just say somebody has the capacity to receive at the size of a 20-cent coin. And here along comes somebody who has the capacity to give at the size of a 50-cent coin. This poor little 20-cent coin has to try and like receive the intensity or the gift of what it is a 50-cent coin has to give. Now, if that 20-cent coin can't expand, then what happens? They project back on the 50-cent person saying, you're trying to be controlling, you're diminishing me, you're putting me into situations where I feel uncomfortable, blah, all the projections, right? But there's something that you're doing that is rare, and that's you're finding ways within yourself to allow yourself very quickly to expand to this 50-cent size to be able to receive that, integrate it, assimilate it, and shift. What do you think that is within you that has you do that with such ease, grace, precision, and speed?
That's a really, really good question. I want to go back to the first. So I think the fundamental reason would be because I love the analogy. 50-cent person giving to a 20-cent person. And if they were to give kickback, I think the only reason they're going to give kickback is because vibrationally they're both on the same level, which means the self-worth is also the same level. The wealth, like if we were to look at, I'm not going to name names, but there's definitely been people in the whole entrepreneur space who have generated income from a more scarce way. Okay. Someone can just have hustle, right? And just make money. Sure. So like, let's say if we've got someone here's 50 cents given to 20-cent person and they get the kickback. Oh, but you're a blah, blah, blah. It sounds like a narcissistic relationship. Vibrationally, they're only going to connect because they're on that same level, because of the self-worth thing. One might just have more to give. Sure. But because what's going to happen is if it's on a different vibration, and let's say I'm the 20-cent person, someone's in 50 cent. If it wasn't that case, the 50 cent wouldn't even find the 20-cent person because it's completely different. The vibration is different beings. They just don't operate in the same center. But I think what's really helped me is because I've put into my vision 50 cents. Right? In my vision, I know what's happening. I know, and I'm calling this in, right? I'm manifesting it, whatever you want to call it. I just have a clear goal and clear vision of what I want to create and where I'm going in the world. So then when I get the gift, the 50 cent comes along, right? I'm gonna keep using it. The 50 cents comes along. It is uncomfortable in the moment, but I'm also like, that's the thing I've been asking for. That's the sign I've been asking for. And of course, I know it's going to feel uncomfortable. The stretch, the advancement to a new level will feel uncomfortable. You can't go to a gym. I try to it, right? Sometimes when I go to the gym, I'm not feeling like being strong today. I just coast, I chill. And my
Mhm.
trainer will come over and she's like, "You all right today?" "Yeah, I'm all right." She's like, "You can lift some more weight." Like, yeah, fuck off. Right. So she's there to actually be like, "You've got to put more weight on because otherwise you're not going to grow.
Mm.
You've got to strain. You've got to go through strain and stress to actually break and grow and get to that new level." So to the question, I think A, I put it into my vision. I put it into my vision. And it's like, I know what it is I want to create. So when the offer comes, it's like, I know this feels uncomfortable. And at the same time, it's good because that's what I've been calling in.
Mm.
Um, I was going to give a B, but I forget what the B was going to be. Yeah, because I'm just trying to, I've never thought about this before. So I'm just trying to really unpack it right now. I put into my vision, but at the same time, I think B would be I'm continually actually working on my receiving muscle. So if we can
Yeah.
work on our receiving muscle to whenever anyone actually gives us something, we just accept, even if it feels uncomfortable, that's the growth for us because we've all been in positions where we've given something to somebody else before. And imagine if that person turned around to you when you're trying to give them a gift and they're like, "No, I can't accept that. Oh, I don't want that." It's
It's
fucking annoying.
annoying.
Fucking annoying. No, let me give it to you because it makes me feel good. We feel good when we do it. So fucking accept it, right? Um, Even worse if they turn around and be like, "Oh, you're being abusive." Fucking what? I'm gonna give it to someone else then. Oh, they're like, well, I'm gonna give it to someone else. That's what I mean. Like vibrationally, they wouldn't be on that level. If I was to give something to somebody and they're like, "Are you doing this to control me?" I'd be like, "Excuse me? Well, fucking give it back then. I'm gonna give it to this person then." Like, what the fuck?
Mm.
It just confused the shit out of me. It wouldn't be a world I live in. But I definitely focus on building my receiving muscle. And any single time anyone wants to give me something, buy me something, I don't try to justify it. I don't, and sometimes it still happens, don't get me wrong. Someone buys something like, "Oh, I'll get next round."
Mm.
I notice when I do that, I'm like, "Morgan, you don't like, yeah, you're a guy and you like to spend money. Sure, go get next round anyway." However, sit in it for a second to actually just receive and go, "Hey, thanks for the drink."
Yeah.
Period. That's it. Just thank you and just actually receive. And that is, like I say, it is a muscle. It is a muscle and we need to grow it because that has not always been like that. When I used to got given things and receive things, it was so uncomfortable for all the childhood things. Oh, but I can't have that because of this and this and this and all the shit that we make up when we're kids. And now I play games with it. And because like a lot of my friends are really rich as well.
Mm.
Um, and because a lot of us are similar, sometimes we put on each other. Like I remember I was in Dubai actually a few weeks ago with Alex,
Mm.
and we play a little game at the end of dinner, and we're like, "Hey, whoever's credit card works pays dinner." And we both put, I think what we did, we're like, whoever's they pick up and whichever one works first, because we're both like, I don't know if it's at the limit or not. We're like,
Yeah.
whatever works, right? Thankfully, they picked up hers first. It worked. And I was like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah. Brilliant.
And,
It's a fun
you know,
game.
and it's just like, and it's like because yeah, and it's just good to practice that and be like, "Hey, yeah, thanks for the dinner." And it was not a cheap dinner, um,
Yeah.
but it's just I think that's definitely a thing that's helped me a lot. Practicing actually being okay with receiving. So then when something way bigger comes than what I was expecting, the first initial answer is still, "Thank you so much." Now I'm going to try and process calibrating this whole thing you've just given me or received or this opportunity or whatever it sort of is.
Yeah, awesome answer. And I have same kind of thing within my own friendship circles. Like we're all doing quite well, and the reciprocity there is huge. Like we create awesome experiences for each other. Like don't even think about who's paying for dinner. Just take care of stuff, and it's a normal way of being. And
Yeah.
then like you said, like when we practice being like this, it does allow for when the bigger things to come along to assimilate it. And I think for anybody wanting to expand that receive muscle, like what you've shared by allowing these things to happen, if somebody does do something for you, instead of doing this reflex of like, oh, now I have to do something or I'll get the next one, to actually just sit with it and be with it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so powerful. Thank you. I have one last business question. And I love to ask this to all of our listeners because, again, this is really sort of the part of the show is like breaking down the truth behind the entrepreneurial journey, not all like the glitz and glam and the fun stuff you see us do, like part of the gritty things. And I always find this question, like the answer to this question, really interesting, which is before you landed where you are with what your brand currently is and all the amazing things you do in the world, how many failed businesses before you got it Right, like before like rubber really hit the road where you're starting to build this like empire and legacy.
Mm.
And
I
what have been
I
some of the biggest lessons?
yeah. So I don't ever believe in failure. Um, I don't think I've ever failed a business, and I don't think anyone's ever failed a business. I think they've just done things that were out of alignment with them, or they didn't commit enough, and they chose to go a different direction. You never fail. You either just quit. So just admit
Mm,
it. Admit it. If you started a business and now you have a job, just admit it that you quit,
mm,
and that's okay. It's not a failure because if we say, "Oh, but I failed," we've then put the blame outside of ourselves and be like, "Oh, but oh, you don't know how hard it was for me." The economy. No, you quit. That's it, and that's okay. Just admit first that you actually quit, and then get realigned with something that you're passionate about, and go and start again. That's so fine. Because if I was to think back, my first business, actually like proper kind of business, apart from just selling shit to my neighbors,
mm.
I started a lawn mowing business because we were about to go to Europe. Here's what I did. I was dating a girl that I
Mhm,
knew I didn't want to be with. And my friend said to me, I said, "What are we doing for New Year's?" And he goes, "I'm actually going to Europe with my brother." And I'm like, "That's sick." So then me and my other mate were like, "Hey, let's go as well." So we go bang. So spontaneous decision. We drive down to flight center, booked our flights that day. I took all the money out of my bank, booked my flights. We leave in 3 months. So great. How am I going to make money now in 3 months to go and travel Europe for 2 months?
mhm,
So went back to the drawing board. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I started, I had my job, but then I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start mowing people's lawns. So I went on Vistaprint and I printed a magnet for the side of my car. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be legit. I just need to look legit. I go, morgues, mowing, and maintenance. Fucking bang. Get that, put it on my car, get a fucking shirt. Let's go.
I love
And
it.
I put all my dad's lawnmower and shit in the back of my truck. And I started just hustling. I started knocking on doors, doing these things. Started putting ads in newspapers. And within about a week or two, I started picking up jobs.
Mm.
And in that space, I then managed to save. I saved about $7,000 or $8,000 in that 3 months.
That's
Then
awesome from cutting grass.
fuck yeah, yeah. And I
So
think
good.
I remember the biggest day I had was $1,100. And I was like, and that was I had another job as well where I was contracting cleaning shit in kitchens. It was fucking horrible, but it paid good.
Yeah.
And so I did that and the mowing in between. And I was just hustling. Like, and I say to everybody, your first $100,000, in fact, probably your first million, but to speak to majority of business owners, your first 100K is nothing but pure hustle. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna get
100%.
like that's why all the advice you got to think smart. Bullshit. Your first 100,000, you just got to fucking work. You need to work more than anyone else. That's gonna make your first 100K. Then you start to take it, you roll it into some systems and some stuff and some marketing. Then you start to play a higher strategic game of working smarter, not harder. But you're not gonna get your first 100K off the ground by working smarter. Like you've got to roll up your sleeves and get into it. And I remember that $1,000 day or $1,100 day was I think I started at 4 a.m. and I finished at 8 p.m. Like it was a big day.
Wow. Wow. Yep.
But I did it right. But here's where I fucked up. I built this kind of cool business. I had all these repeat customers. Maybe I had about $800 to $1,500 a week on like regular
Yeah.
um customers. Then I was like, wow, I've built a pretty cool business, but now I'm going to Europe for 2 months. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give my logbook to my friend. And I said, hey, can you just do these while I'm away? And he's like, yeah. And I legitimately thought he would just do it. And I didn't even have to check in on him. I come back after Europe. Hey, did you do any? No, I didn't do any. Completely gone. Just shut it down. And I was like, what the right? So
And
that was
were you going to let him keep the money as well?
yeah, I was just like, just keep because this was literally me. The only reason I started was to make money. I didn't start to make a business. I was like, I just need to make money.
Wow.
I don't
So
even care.
all he had to do was mow the lawns and take the cash.
All you have to do is show up,
Wow.
which that's the thing. Most people in life, they
Don't show
don't even
up.
fucking show up. 99% success is just being there. I gave a silver platter. Here it is, right? But that was definitely my first mistake. I assumed, so that one definitely flattened. I came back. I couldn't get back any of the customers. I tried to like, hey, I'm back in Australia. None of them wanted me. Um,
Burnt. Yeah.
yeah, and then I started my apprenticeship actually straight away. I did all that. When I quit the apprenticeship, I came back down and restarted that business. Actually, I'm like, I'm gonna redo the mowing again. And I was just going through like a really bad space, I think then. And I ended up just quitting. Like I did, I was just like, I'm not doing this. Not for me. It's
Mm.
not my life.
Hmm.
So that was definitely probably the first hit of business. And then it was network marketing. And I just realized, like, I started learning through that. It's like you you can't fail unless you quit. It's the only way you can ever fail in life is to quit. So if you just keep going and you're willing to suck enough for long enough, you'll eventually get good. And I saw so many people come in my first year of network marketing. I enrolled about 8 people in the first year. I saw people come in with these big network skills, experience, kill it, enroll 100 people in the first year. And I'm like, wow, I wish I could be like them. But the problem was next year, where are they? They're not there.
Yeah,
And
it's a
I made
huge
sure
thing.
I just stayed. And then 2.5 years, I was doing enough, quit my job, 3.5 years in 6-figure business. About 4.5 years in, I was then the number one income earner in my whole company under the age of 25. Being interviewed
Yeah, massive.
by a billionaire, speak on stage with Darren Hardy. It was just crazy, but I think, so if you're talking about, one thing we did doing there, I did remember this the other day, another business we kind of tried to start because me and my mate, we love traveling.
Mm.
So like, what if we travel and we invite people with us? So
Oh, yep.
he's like, Kentucky tours started like that. You just, I'm like, cool. So let's throw a holiday and let's see if anyone else wants to come with us. We put it out there and we sold, I think, like 7 or 8 spots. And we're like, fuck yeah. The first one we did covered for like most of the cost and stuff. That's great. Then we did another one. We did Queenstown, then we did Bali. And we took these people on a New Year's Eve thing. We took on a snow trip. And it was just sick.
Fun.
Yeah, it was super cool. And then, but we did Bali and we just realized like it's a lot of effort for not much. And it's a distraction. We go focus on our main business. And then we sort of burnt that bridge, burnt that boat, and then came back to the business. So I think there's definitely been a few things that we trialed and tested, and this wasn't it. That's why I say never failed them. We just made a decision because with the tours, we were both building network marketing, and we both made the decision to go, it's actually, that's a distraction. And I think, you asked about the biggest lesson. I think the biggest lesson would probably be what we're talking about right now, is to identify the difference between what is a distraction and what's actually going to propel you forward more. And just because it's there, just because it's been given to you, doesn't mean you should say yes. And that's the thing I've definitely realized a lot along the way. If you declare a big, bold vision, the universe is either going to do one or two things. It's either going to give you the step and say, here's the thing you asked for, take it, that's going to help you, or it's going to put something in front of you to test you to see if you're even serious. So if you say, yeah, I want to be like financially free when I'm 25 and whatever, like exactly what I did. Next minute, well, here's the business opportunity. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm doing. But then the universe, because it's funny, everything's in polarity. It's like, hey, here's a distraction. You sure don't want to start a tour business. You sure don't want to be a YouTuber. You sure don't want to do this and this and this. And it's a continual game of going, no. I think the yeses will build your lifestyle. Like if you're someone who's like down in the dumps, you're like, I just want to reinvent my life, having a great life. Say yes to every single fucking thing. Say yes to everything. Go out there and do things that are uncomfortable. But if you're really serious about building your future and your financial future, start saying no to things. Because every single time you say no to one thing, you say yes to something else. When you say yes, you say no to something else. And I know that the yeses have definitely built my lifestyle, but the no's have definitely built my wealth.
You're on fire today. You have
These are
just
good
been,
questions.
you have been a wisdom of wealth. I have thoroughly loved this and everything you've shared. It's been epic. There's so much gold in here. And also, what I love about what you shared is there's simplicity. There's none of this like hop on one leg, pat your tummy, while you also kind of like rub your head and you twirl your tongue around. Like it's like really practical, simple yet profoundly powerful advice that even if you were to take one thing from this episode and implement this into your life, within 12 months you would radically end up in a completely different spot.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I know we've been working together for a little while, and there's another question that I always love asking my guests because I really like bringing down the transparency of what it's like to add finance into a coaching business. Because one of my missions is that I want to have finance as just a normal payment method within the coaching space. Because when coaches get paid in full, they have money. When good people have money, they do great things. And when people who usually can't afford to say yes, because to work with premium coaches, there's premium price tags, but it doesn't have to be so expensive. So when we can make it affordable, then what we're doing, we're helping shift the collective consciousness and helping raise the vibration of the planet. So I'd love to know a little bit about what's your journey been like in terms of implementing finance into your business. What have you loved? What have been maybe some of the challenges? And then also, what difference has this made for clients saying yes to working with you?
Yeah, for sure. I think, the challenges would just be, added like admin stuff that we've just got to figure out internally, right? Which is
Yeah.
every single business, every single pivot you make and new thing you do and change, it's about how do we just now add things in. That's what entrepreneurship is about. How do we, okay, cool, we've got this thing. How do we make it better? How do we improve it? How do we make this thing work? But I would honestly say that's the only challenge. Then perhaps the challenge would be getting other people to understand things I know about wealth.
Mm.
Yeah. Like we were just talking before this, we started, and we were both literally saying, hey, we're actually both going to use finance to buy things for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because before I had this podcast, I was meeting with a buyer's agent. We're about to buy a property.
Yeah.
And because I can't, and we're using finance to buy the property. We're like, great. So if I can give you $80,000, you're going to give me $400,000. This is fucking wild.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I'm like, it's incredible. Because now what happens is my investment growth doesn't grow on the $80,000, it grows on the $400,000. So if we see 10% growth in the next 12 months, that's not going to make me $8,000 of my 80. That's going to make me 40 of the entire thing. And people don't think properly about wealth, and they sometimes think of, buying used cars and yada 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 and getting fucked.
Yeah.
But
That is a way to, like, you should be thinking about money when you're doing that. But
I'll always look for how can I use other people's money, as long as it makes sense, right? I'll always look for how can I use other people's money before my own, because I just know how to deploy my money better than most people do. I know that I can put it into, say, a Facebook marketing campaign, and we can generate 4 or 5x what we actually put into it. So if I can take 50 grand, put that in and make 200, I'll do that all day long. But if I invest like $50,000 into something else, and now I don't have that 50K capital to make that investment because I bought something else that's going to give me money over a longer period of time, that's not a smart idea. So if I can use someone else's money to make that, I can go and make this investment over here and then pay back down it over here. Like that's just better to manage money.
100%.
So it's about teaching people how to actually use money intelligently. And where I started to really learn outside the box, I was at an event and they were talking about how Robert Kiyosaki's wife did this thing. She wanted to go buy a brand new Bentley for about $500,000. And she has the cash, right? Goes and buys in cash if she wants. But she asked herself, what else could I buy with the $500,000? So instead of going and buying a liability with the 500K, she actually went and bought a storage container unit thingy, right? With the 500K. That printed her, I'm making up numbers now, okay? But let's say it printed her 2K a week, okay? Because she bought the whole thing out, right?
Yeah.
Which is an asset. The asset then pumped out 2K a week. She then financed the car, and the asset paid the finance down on the car. So she bought an asset that prints money and got the toy she wanted, but her assets are now paying down the toy. And it's just a different way of thinking about money. So people need to start to understand on how they can sort of leverage things a little bit better. And, that's sort of why I like the idea of the finance options, because people can actually, because like I said, like if you can buy things in full, do it. But sometimes it might even be better to just go, well, how can I leverage something over here? So I can use the capital I have right now to invest into something that I can't necessarily borrow money for.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So if it's there, like it's a good idea to sort of look at it. So implementing that has been super cool, because not only obviously like it's helped better from a, cash standpoint in the company, but educating people on how they can actually do it and be smart with their finances. Because then they've got more money freed up to invest into things like staff, marketing, back into their business, shit like this, where they shouldn't have to worry about paying down coaching programs or masterminds, because it's not necessarily going to bring a direct ROI in this moment, where you can hire a staff member and they can implement things straight away, or you can put a Facebook marketing campaign and get money straight away. It's a different sort of thing. So people need to start to think differently about how they use money, acquire money, and deploy it.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's exactly what we were talking about. We're both looking at different masterminds. And when I'm also making this decision, the one that I'm looking at it's going to have a couple of trips to Miami. It's a 12-month thing. And I've got, so this year, as in 2024, I'm opening a brokerage in New Zealand, which is going to require capital. I've also got another trip where I'm going to be in Europe for about 5 weeks. And I'm literally looking at like everything that I've got. And I'm like, sure, I could drop the cash on this, but then how does that, like, what's the ripple effect of that in terms of cash flow, and how does that impact these other projects? And I'm like, what if I just financed it? Because then there's such a minimal impact on my cash flow to do all of that, yet still create these other cash producing assets that's then going to pay for that. It makes sense. Like, why would I use my own money to do that, or jeopardize a project when I can use somebody else's money that's going to make me money and pay back the original loan? It's
Yeah.
But people don't think like that, because they're taught that anything with interest is bad. And I always like to go back to the analogy of, we go into a retail store. We know when we buy that pair of shoes that we love, we're not buying them at cost price. We're buying them at retail. And we're all happy to pay retail. And we know that's the markup on the shoe, that it does not cost that much to make the shoe. But we know that's what it costs to keep the lights on and the employees and all the rest of it and all the rest of the chain that's involved with making that shoe and getting it to me in that store. Yet the bank interest is the same thing. Keeps the lights on. Sure, sometimes they can be greedy, and that's a whole other conversation of things. But when you're using it like this intelligently, you use your assets to pay your liabilities, and also often your interest is a tax break anyway. So it's all kind of like understanding and looking at these like deeper pieces. And I know Robert Kiyosaki being all about getting out of the rat race, like these are really key important things that we need to understand. Like, this is how we pull out of that. And it's such a powerful way, particularly in business. Don't take the risk with your own money. Use somebody else's. Get them to put the skin in the game, not you. You enjoy the profit and get that to pay for the liability.
Yeah. I love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been amazing having you on the show. Is there any final parting words of wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners?
Apart from where they can find me?
Yes, let's do that.
Where they can find us is, our podcast, Dream Out Loud. They can find that on every platform. We're on YouTube now as well, so everything's like videoed. And or my Instagram, Morgan T. Nelson, come and hang out with me there. And we're also going to drop you guys some free epic shit. So we're saying, we'll be putting below. So I've got a quiz that I've made that people can I said there's 4 pillars, right? So the 4 pillars of creating a dream life.
Yeah.
So if people use the quiz, they can go through and I'll actually determine which one of the pillars that is actually giving them problems right now as to why they're not getting to that next level of growth. They figure that out. They figure out which one they are. Then I give them a customized 20-minute training video on how to actually progress forward from that. So it's super fucking badass. And then we also have like a productivity planner. Literally the planner. There's so much bullshit out there, but it's like you got to answer 50,000 questions before you start a day. It's like, bro, I'm already overwhelmed. So this one planner is literally what I've used to be super productive, make the money I've done, while also travel 50 plus countries and have a lot of fun. Like, my life's just fun. It's a proper life by design. So people can get that productivity planner. We literally put it out yesterday for the first time, so they can grab that as well. But any parting advice? I would say, apart from everything we've talked about, is to get into the right rooms, get into the right environment with people. But I'd probably just say that I had a conversation with Les Brown once, and Les said to me, I said, do you really think everybody can live their dream life? And he goes, yes, that's why you're all here. He goes, there's a 400 trillion chances to 1 of you being born. And if you think you're here by accident, you're absolutely mistaken. Every single one of us are here to execute on and actualize on our highest potential. And our mission in life is to actually discover what that is and then do our absolute freaking best. Because one thing for sure is what's going to happen. If you don't do that, you're going to get on your deathbed and you'll be faced with you'll be faced with the ghosts of all the dreams and the ideas that you could have made, and they came to you to bring them to life. And for whatever reason, you didn't freaking do it. So you got to go out there and actually become so crystal clear on what it is you want to bring to this world, what it is you want to do, and then stop giving a fuck what other people think and actually just go and do it. That's what I'd say.
Boom. Amazing. I love it so much. You have been amazing, Morgan. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I know our listeners are absolutely going to love this episode. We're going to have all your links everywhere. You'll have the quiz link, podcast link, the productivity planner. Hopefully we get this out before your event that's going to be in Sydney, which you said was what, the 29th
Oh
of
yeah, it's on the
December?
29th. That's super
20...
short turnaround. That's in like 2 weeks time.
Yeah, super short
Otherwise, like,
turnaround. If we can get this
we
one
got,
out. Yeah.
yeah, we got heaps of cool shit happening next year. We've even got Dream Fest next year. I want to tell you about actually 2-day personal development event, entrepreneurship event next year. It's gonna be sick. We've got some big names. Speaking of that,
Yeah,
but
sexy.
they'll find it. Find me on Instagram, or we'll find you.
I love it. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Finance Show. If you loved this interview, please feel free to share it, because if it made a difference to you, it will absolutely make a difference to others. And if you are a coach, healer, or mentor, and you'd like to explore getting finance set up for your business so you can get paid in full from day one and financially support your clients in a far greater capacity than just your in-house payment plan, head over to my website, www.lifestylefinanceco.com, and follow the prompts so we can explore this further. Big love, beautiful soul, and thanks for the support.